Some men buy diamonds for their wives' birthdays. Some book a sunset cruise, or a rooftop dinner, or a weekend spa getaway. I booked a 75-inch screen, a top-tier event videographer, and rented a fog machine. Her name is Melissa. We'd been married for 7 years, together for 9. Melissa had this disarming laugh, the kind that made strangers in grocery store aisles smile without knowing why. She was charismatic in the way cats are, aloof, elegant, and hard to read. But beautiful? Lord, yes. And smart enough to make most of our friends pretend not to hear her when she got going about 18th century French literature. So when she told me she wanted a huge party for her 35th, I didn't flinch. A memory night, she said. I want everyone who loves me there. You know, friends, family, old roommates, my Pilates class girls, the barista who remembers my name. That should have been the first sign. Melissa hated crowds. She had panic attacks at IKEA. But now she wanted to host a black tie soiree for 30-plus guests? I said sure. Booked a private hall. Bartender. DJ. Vegan options. Classy place. Even had valet parking, because if you're going to air your dirty laundry, you might as well do it with a coat check. Now, to understand what happened next, you have to know one thing about me. I am not the jealous type. Truly. I don't comb through phones or decode emojis. I trusted her. Completely. Like an idiot. Until I came home early on a Tuesday and saw 2 wine glasses in the sink and a button-up shirt hanging on the back of a dining chair that wasn't mine. Size medium. I'm a large. I didn't confront her then. No raised voices. No slamming doors. I simply smiled, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "How was your day, babe?" She looked me in the eyes, grinned, and said, "Boring." And just like that, I knew I wasn't married to a woman. I was married to a story, one I hadn't written. So I decided it was time I did. I called in some favors. An old army buddy of mine runs a surveillance business. Another friend does GPS tech for fleet cars. And I learned how to act. Smiled at the woman who was stealing my life, rubbed her shoulders while she texted her colleague, and kissed her goodnight while she lay next to me texting another man in my bed. Every night for 2 months, I played the role of supportive husband while collecting screenshots, tracking pings, and logging timestamps. She made it easy, honestly. If cheating were an Olympic sport, she'd have a medal and a Wheaties box deal. By the time her birthday rolled around, I had a portfolio. No, I had a masterpiece. And I titled it, For the Memories. Melissa wanted meaningful people only at her party. Translation: everyone who would be most devastated to see her exposed. Her parents? Front row seats. Her college roommate, who once cried about being cheated on by a guy named Zach. Yep, there. Her boss from the marketing firm? Invited. Melissa was gunning for that VP promotion, so she needed to show off her Martha Stewart meets Michelle Obama hosting skills. And then there was Brent. Brent. Or as he appeared in my notes, target number 1. Brent was her personal trainer. 6'2", vegan, probably owned more hair products than I did books. Melissa swore she only trained with women. Even laughed when I once joked, "What's his name?" Well, turns out it was Brent. Full-time gym rat, part-time homewrecker. He RSVP'd yes. Bold move. But I guess when you're spending your afternoons in another man's bed, you start thinking you're invincible. I made sure he got a very special invitation. Cream-colored, calligraphy font, sealed with a red wax M. The M stood for many things. Melissa. Manipulation. Mistake. Murder, metaphorically speaking. While she was busy fussing over flower arrangements and obsessing over the lighting. Not too harsh. I want people to feel like they're glowing. I was meeting with a videographer named Nathan. A silent guy with a goatee and zero curiosity. He didn't ask what the footage was for. He just said, "I can have it cut," and set to music. Music. That gave me an idea. Nothing says memories like a slow piano cover of Can't Help Falling in Love. Played over screenshots of Melissa texting Brent about what she was in the mood for tonight. Timing, friends. Timing is everything. Now, the screen wouldn't just show the betrayal, it would sing it. Melissa was in the dark. She was too busy posting sneak peeks on Instagram. "Can't wait to celebrate with my favorite people," she wrote, followed by a heart emoji and a picture of her custom cake. It was shaped like a Chanel purse. Fitting. Looked classy. Completely empty inside. And me? I was calm. Serene. I'd moved past anger weeks ago. I wasn't here to shout. I was here to present. Let the evidence speak. The party started at 7 p.m. By 6:50, people were trickling in, dressed to the nines, sipping champagne, trading compliments like currency. Melissa was in her element. Flowing emerald dress, hair curled like she was starring in a shampoo commercial. She floated through the room like royalty, accepting hugs, air kisses, and carefully rehearsed praise. 35? No way. You're glowing. I need your skincare routine. She lapped it up, smiling like the Queen of Hearts, oblivious to the guillotine I'd wield in behind the projector screen. I played my part too. Polished shoes, navy blazer, smile set to mildly amused. I shook hands, told people the catering was her idea, it was mine, and nodded like a man who wasn't about to detonate his own marriage in a room full of catered shrimp skewers and mood lighting. The DJ lowered the volume. It was time. I clinked my glass with a butter knife. The universal symbol for something sentimental is about to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, stepping up in front of the screen. Thank you all for coming. Tonight's not just about celebrating a birthday, it's about honoring a truly unforgettable woman. Melissa smiled. She thought I was about to deliver a Hallmark monologue. You know, she lights up her room. She's the reason I believe in soulmates. Blah, blah, betrayal cake. Instead, I continued. Melissa, this next part is just for you. A special surprise I've been working on. A montage of memories, a tribute to the love we shared, the trust we built, and the life we made together. The crowd gave a soft ah. Brent even nodded. Poor guy probably expected baby pictures and anniversary clips. Instead, he was about to get a starring role he didn't audition for. The lights dimmed. The projector flickered. The music started. A soft piano cover of Can't Help Falling in Love. And then, screenshot. Brent, you up? Melissa, always for you face-blowing kiss. Next slide. Melissa bent over a hotel bed, timestamp in the corner. Security cam footage. Courtesy of a friend who manages the Wyndham off 8th Street. Brent shirtless behind her, looking like a Calvin Klein ad for broken homes. Whispers. Gasps. Someone dropped a fork. Slide after slide, clip after clip. GPS logs. Messages. Voice notes. Her whispering sweet nothings. Him replying, he'll never find out. Oh, he found out. By the third minute, the room was silent. The only sound was the soft piano and the quiet unraveling of a woman's carefully curated reputation. Melissa didn't move. She just stared. And when the screen went black, I stepped forward and said 5 words. Happy birthday, Melissa. I'm done. Then I turned, walked out the double doors, and left behind 30 stunned guests, a half-eaten cake, and a woman who had just watched her entire world burn in high definition. I didn't run. Didn't sprint to my car or peel out in a blaze of rubber enclosure. No. I strolled, slow and steady. Let the silence behind me settle like dust on a crime scene. The best part about a mic drop is leaving before anyone tries to pick it up. Outside, I lit a cigar. Not because I smoke, I don't, but because sometimes you need a prop to look like the man who just torched a facade and walked away in style. My phone buzzed. 14 missed calls. All Melissa. She hadn't moved when I left the room. Just sat there, blinking. Like if she stayed perfectly still, the footage would rewind and reality would hit delete. Brent? Gone. He vanished somewhere between always for you face-blowing kiss and tell him you're at yoga again. I imagine he skipped the valet and took off running like the cheaters version of the Boston Marathon. As for the guests, word spread fast. One of Melissa's Pilates friends uploaded a blurry clip of the video to Instagram with the caption, WTF just happened? Hashtag betrayal. Hashtag popcorn. Hashtag Brent is trash. It went viral before dessert. By the time I got home, yes, my home, still in my name, I already had texts from coworkers, old friends, even my dentist. Dude, that was savage. You okay? Legend. And then, the best one. From Melissa's mother. I raised her better than this. I am so sorry. You didn't deserve this. Not a bad Yelp review to get from your ex-mother-in-law. Melissa did show up that night. Around 1:17 a.m. I heard the unmistakable sound of her key in the lock, followed by several thuds and a half-sob, half-gasp as she realized I'd already changed it. She pounded on the door, cried, begged, said it was all a mistake, that I misunderstood. I didn't respond. Just sat on the couch, whiskey in hand, headphones on. It was the best conversation we'd ever had. The next day, she went full PR damage control. She posted a story on Instagram holding our wedding photo, tears in her eyes, saying she wasn't perfect and that marriage is hard and people make mistakes. Oh, sweetheart. That wasn't a mistake. That was a spreadsheet of deception. 3 years of breadcrumb lies. Every kiss laced with fraud. Every "I love you" a business transaction with an exit clause. She tried to get ahead of the story. Problem is, I am the story now. And we're not even at the good part yet. The morning after the birthday massacre, I made pancakes. Yeah, pancakes. Blueberry, extra golden, with just a touch of lemon zest. Because revenge may be best served cold, but breakfast still deserves effort. While I poured syrup over the ruins of my former domestic life, the group chat was on fire. Friends who'd witnessed the whole birthday party apocalypse were texting like a crime scene investigation unit. Bro, that video was insane. Did you hire a film crew? Melissa looked like someone unplugged her soul. 10 out of 10. Would watch again. There's something surreal about going viral among your friends, not for dancing or a funny pet, but for eviscerating your marriage on a 75-inch screen with Dolby surround sound. By 10 a.m., I had 3 voicemails from mutual acquaintances. The consensus, people were taking my side, which is rare. Cheated on husbands usually get a pat on the back and a six-pack, not a standing ovation and an inbox full of date offers. Speaking of which, I'd gotten 5 from women at the party. Let's just say betrayal looks a lot different when it's dressed in a 3-piece suit, holding receipts, and walking away without saying a word. But I wasn't interested. Not yet. You don't bring in the wrecking crew before you've cleared the rubble. And I still had a house to detonate. At noon, Melissa's lawyer called. Mr. Dalton, Melissa is very upset. I saw. She's willing to talk. Maybe this doesn't have to get ugly. I chuckled. Counselor, you saw that video, right? We passed ugly 3 states ago. Pause. Then let's discuss an amicable split. She wants to preserve what dignity she can. That made me laugh out loud. A hard, cathartic belly laugh that felt better than whiskey on a cold day. Tell Melissa she should have thought about dignity before she invited Brent into our bed and used my birthday gift money to book hotel rooms. He didn't respond, just sighed and said, I'll be in touch. The thing is, I wasn't done. That video, that wasn't revenge. That was foreplay. Revenge isn't just about exposure. It's about subtraction. It's about making sure the person who tore your life apart doesn't just feel shame. They feel the weight of what they lost. Tangibly. Permanently. Melissa and I had built a life together. Joint bank accounts. Shared mortgage. A car in her name, but paid for by me. Not to mention the startup I let her invest in 2 years ago. Big mistake. Or at least, it was, until I went back through the paperwork and realized something beautiful. The shares were in my name. See, Melissa was great at many things. Loyalty wasn't one of them. But vanity? Oh, she had that down to an art. She didn't read the fine print on the startup paperwork because she was too busy picking out fonts for the business cards. So, I made a call to my business partner. Todd, I need to sell back 33% of my equity. You sure? Yep. Liquidate it. Quietly. I knew Melissa's lawyer would come asking for a slice. That was the plan. But when he looked into it, he'd find nothing. Because the assets were already moved, the cash already shifted. By the time the divorce proceedings began, Melissa would be legally entitled to exactly half of. Not much. I'd set up a new LLC in my brother's name. Transferred the important assets there. Legal, clean, and airtight. Melissa's half would be a decoy, just like her promises. Oh, and remember that car? The one in her name? I reported it stolen. Technically not inaccurate. It was taken under false pretenses. Melissa had driven it to Brent's place twice a week for nearly 8 months. I had dashcam footage and parking logs. GPS data doesn't lie. The police impounded it that afternoon. I could picture her walking outside in her slippers, coffee in hand, only to see her Lexus getting hoisted onto a flatbed. Ma'am, this vehicle is part of an ongoing investigation. Ding. Another brick out of her carefully built life. But the real masterpiece was the apartment. See, she couldn't stay with Brent. Word got out fast, and even homewreckers have reputations to protect. So she moved in with a friend, then tried to rent a loft downtown. She used me as a reference. I gave a glowing review. Called the landlord myself, actually. She's organized, responsible, handles conflict well. Pause. Oh, and she's very discreet. Unless there's a camera involved. Click. Application denied. Petty? Maybe. But when someone poisons your well, you don't offer them a glass of water. You salt their garden. That night, I sat on the balcony with a glass of bourbon and my laptop. I rewatched the video I'd made, not out of pride, but because I wanted to remember the moment when the lies stopped having power. When her gaslighting, her deflections, her "it's not what it looks like" crumbled in front of an audience. My favorite part? Her face. That split second when the first screenshot hit the screen and she realized she was no longer the main character in this story. She was the plot twist. And me? I was the author now. Melissa tried damage control. Of course she did. 2 days after the party, I got a heartfelt email from her. 4 paragraphs long. Subject line: please read this. It was the kind of message you'd expect from someone trying to apologize without actually admitting to anything. A lot of "we drifted," and "I made mistakes," and "I never meant to hurt you." The kind of prose that uses the word mistake like it's a misplaced coffee order and not 8 months of infidelity coordinated like a military campaign. She even ended it with, "I still believe in the love we had. Maybe someday we can be friends again." Friends. That word hit harder than the betrayal. Friends? I didn't expose you in front of 35 people and a fog machine because I wanted to circle back for brunch. I did it because closure isn't enough. I needed consequences. So, I replied, "For words, you will get nothing." I didn't say it in anger. I said it like a promise, a quiet truth, like a weather report. And I meant it. The divorce filings hit her the next morning, hand-delivered to her office. Same building where Brent used to visit for lunch. She got served right in front of her HR department. Efficient, poetic, extremely on brand for the new me. In the paperwork, I listed irreconcilable differences, but the 43-page evidence packet stapled to the back painted the real picture. Screenshots, videos, GPS logs, her LinkedIn DMs to Brent, complete with winking emojis and "we need to be more careful" messages. Careful? You left your iCloud backup on. I didn't have to hack anything. I just logged into the woman's digital diary. Her lawyer, a fresh-faced guy named Carter who looked like he still got carded at movie theaters, called me the day after the papers landed. "Mr. Dalton, we're hoping to settle quickly and equitably." "Carter," I said calmly, "your client committed marital fraud for the better part of a year. Equitable is off the table." "Well, the court may not see it that way." "Good. Let's go to court. I have the receipts. Hell, I have PowerPoint slides." Silence. He finally sighed and said, "What do you want?" "Everything. Not out of greed. Out of balance. You see, Melissa didn't just cheat on me. She spent nearly a decade weaponizing my trust. She used our marriage like a springboard for her curated little life, the parties, the friends, the business introductions. She was a walking Instagram reel of relationship cosplay. So now I was flipping the script. And I hadn't even pulled the last lever yet. 3 weeks after the party, I went to visit Melissa's parents. I know sounds crazy, but hear me out. Her father, Carl, was an old-school Navy man. Stoic. Believed in firm handshakes, early mornings, and personal accountability. Her mother, Margaret, was the quiet type. Not passive, just reserved. Her love came in the form of baked goods and folded laundry. They always treated me like a son. And despite everything, I wanted them to know the truth from me, not through some filtered, mascara-smeared version told by their daughter between sobs and self-pity. They welcomed me in. I sat on their couch, declined the cookies, and laid it all out. I didn't embellish, didn't get graphic, just told them what I'd discovered, how long it had been going on, and what I'd done about it. Carl stared at the floor for a full minute. Then he looked up and said, "You did what a man should do. Clean, quiet, and dignified." Margaret, through tears, just whispered, "I'm so sorry." They didn't defend her, didn't rationalize it, didn't try to shift the blame to me for being too distant or too focused on work. They just sat there in the stillness of a family realizing they raised someone who burned down their own home with a match they borrowed. Before I left, Carl asked if I needed help moving anything out of the house. I told him no, because she was the one leaving. I had filed for exclusive occupancy, backed by evidence. She didn't even contest it. Just emailed Carter, who emailed me, and said, "Melissa has decided to voluntarily vacate the property for the time being." Translation: she was too ashamed to come home. Good. I hired a cleaning service. Professional, discreet, and thorough. They removed every trace of her from the house like it was a crime scene. New sheets, new dishes, new locks. I repainted the bedroom, sold the bed, threw the mattress out with a note pinned to it that said, "Some stains don't come out." I wasn't angry. I was meticulous. There's a difference. And that's what really got to Melissa. Not the video, not the guests, not the eviction. It was the silence. I didn't text, didn't call, didn't rage post. I erased her like a bad line from a screenplay. She went from lead actress to uncredited extra in the movie of my life. And people noticed. One of her friends, former friends, now reached out. Hey, just so you know, she's been telling people you cheated first. I laughed. Of course she did. That's what cowards do when the truth is too heavy to carry. They stuff it in a suitcase of lies and hand it off to someone else. But no one believed her, because everyone had seen the truth. In 4K. And the final nail? Well, that comes next. Out a month after the party, Melissa landed an interview. Not a job interview, a podcast. Some self-styled healing journey influencer had invited her on to talk about public betrayal and rediscovering self-worth. A friend sent me the link the moment it dropped. I didn't want to listen. I listened anyway. She told the host she had lost herself in the marriage, that it was emotionally distant, and she sought validation in the wrong places. She said she never expected to be publicly humiliated, but maybe it was the wake-up call she needed. The host made sounds of sympathetic concern. You're so brave, she said. Brave. The same woman who couldn't even face me after the party, who ghosted our therapist when we were trying to work on things, was now sitting in front of a mic like she was Oprah with a sob story. It took everything in me not to call in. Instead, I updated the court with the audio clip. My lawyer smiled and said, thanks. This'll pair nicely with the security footage, chat logs, and financial records. See, Melissa was still holding out hope for a fair split. Her lawyer had filed a response asking for half the house, partial ownership of my LLC, and even spousal support. That was cute. But when you commit marital fraud and spend joint funds on hotel rooms and spa getaways with your gym buddy, it's hard to convince a judge that you deserve a check on the first. Especially after a podcast where you admit, in your own words, that you sought validation from another man's lap. I didn't need revenge. I needed receipts. And I had them all alphabetized. Court day arrived. I showed up in a charcoal suit and calm eyes. Melissa looked tired, thinner, diminished. Her makeup was immaculate, but it couldn't cover the sleepless nights. Shame makes a poor foundation. Her lawyer tried to salvage something, anything. Irreconcilable differences, emotional neglect, subjective perception of the marital experience. But the judge had seen the evidence. He looked over his glasses and said, this isn't about perception. This is about proof. He denied her spousal support, ruled she'd received no part of the LLC, awarded me the house. And when she tried to argue for the car, the impounded Lexus, the judge simply asked, was that vehicle ever used during your meetings with Mr. Brent? Melissa burst into tears before he could finish the sentence. Brent didn't even show up. She stood alone. And for the first time, it really hit her. She hadn't just lost a husband. She lost her home, her reputation, her image, and worst of all, her story. She no longer got to be the narrator. Not after I printed the receipts and bound them like a novel. 2 weeks later, I received a handwritten envelope in the mail. It wasn't addressed. No return label. Just to you. Inside, a single page. Melissa's handwriting. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. You were better than I knew how to handle. I traded gold for glitter, and now I choke on the dust. I'll never ask you to take me back. I just hope you remember that, once, I was someone you trusted. I'm sorry I wasn't worth it in the end. It didn't bring me joy. Didn't break me, either. I folded it once, set it aside, and poured myself a coffee. Not because I was bitter. Because I was done. 6 months after the party, I got an invitation. High school reunion. I wasn't going to go. Then I remembered something Melissa once said during one of her wine-fueled monologues. I love our story. How we met young, built something real, and proved everyone wrong. So I RSVP'd, yes. And I brought a +1. Not a new girlfriend. Not a trophy date. My business partner's wife, now ex-wife, who had left him after catching him cheating with Melissa. Small world. Turns out, Brent wasn't her first. Just the most recent. She and I had drinks a few weeks after it all went public. Compared timelines. Connected dots. Laughed, mostly. At the reunion, we showed up looking like the cover of a country club brochure. Melissa was there too. Alone. Eyes red. Smile forced. Hug stiff. People noticed. They always do. We didn't say a word to her. Not out of pettiness. Out of finality. When we left, I passed the sign-in table and saw her name tag. Melissa Dalton. She hadn't changed it yet. That was the last lie she ever told wearing my name. I left the tag where it was, walked out into the night. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't look back.